My name is Julia, and today we're going to talk about yarn stuff that I've been doing the past weeks. It's been a journey, and today I'm just going to talk you through my process of unraveling a sweater and my first attempt at hand dyeing yarn. So, okay, let's start first with the unraveling the sweater because it was a long process. This whole process was really long from unraveling and then dyeing the yarns. So, yeah, like with the sweater, I had this old H&M sweater that I got on sale a few years ago. I think it was already about 5 to 6 years ago because I got it when I was still in college, and I have been already working for about 5 years already. So yeah, I got this old sweater. It is a knitted sweater with some cable knits in front. I think it was also done in brioche, if I'm not mistaken. And it was actually a really nice sweater, but it was just too big. I even can't remember why I bought it. I think I just got it because it was on sale. It was pretty, and it was just like 500 pesos during that time. But I never really used it. Like, I can't remember using it at all. It was just sitting in my storage for the longest time. So I just kept it, and then I pulled it out after a couple of years, and I just started unraveling it. So with this like method, you can also find old sweaters from the thrift store. So you'll just need, of course, like an old sweater. Can be from the thrift store, can be an old sweater of yours. And you actually just need two things: the sweater and then a seam ripper. So you just need those two. The other ones are actually just optional. But yeah, we're gonna go into that later. So the first step that I did was to open up all the seams. It was sitting in my storage for a while, so it kind of like they kind of like stuck together. So I had to open it up, and then like with the structure of this knitted sweaters, you'll find this sort of crochet seam that puts all the panels together. So what you have to do is to find the bottom, the end part of that crochet seam, and then to cut it. So that's what I did. And from there, you can actually unravel the panel easily. It will just like when you pull that particular thread, it will just come off really easily, and that will already disconnect the panels. So that's the first step. And after you disconnect all the panels, what you need to do is to actually unravel the sweater itself from the panels. So I have this yarn winder. I just found it easier to unravel using the yarn winder instead of just like pulling the yarn deadly, because that method can be kind of messy. So I had this yarn winder, and I just used it to make cakes out of the unraveled yarn. So it makes the process a lot faster, but it's optional if you don't have a yarn winder. um I don't know, I'm not sure like the other alternative methods, but I think you can just like sort of turn it into a ball and just be like mindful of it not getting tangled up. So yeah, but I just turn this old yarns, the unraveled yarn, into cakes first. So I ended up with, I think, about eight cakes in total. And it was a lot. Like, even for just the sleeve part, I got about 50 grams of yarn, which is already a lot. And then I Swift is Swift the right term? No, I let's say just wind. I just winded them up again using my umbrella Swift thingy, the one that looks like an umbrella. Um, I turned them into hanks again. So from the ball, I turned them into a hank because I'm gonna dye them. So, oh yeah, I have it here. So from the cake, I turned the unraveled yarn into hanks like this one. Okay, and another thing with reclaim yarn is that you're gonna have a lot of kinks. So, like the curly thingy that looks like noodles. So, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of kinks with it because it's been sitting in a while for in the storage. So, yeah, like you'll get this little noodle looking things, but this will come off when you wash the yarn. So, yeah, I turned them into this to get them ready for dyeing. And then, yeah, I think that's it for the unraveling part. Am I missing something? Um, yeah, oh, another note with choosing a sweater, a knitted sweater to unravel, is that there are this you should look for the sweaters that have crochet seams and not the sewed ones, sewn ones. So yeah, definitely that's a watch out. Look for those ones that have crochet seams. Like if you see a knitted sweater that has like sewn edges, sewn panels, like move away from that because you won't be able to get anything from those, and it will be really hard to unravel. And I think it will be, I don't know if it will be, if the yarn will be unusable, but yeah, like I saw this tutorial and it says like it's one of the watch outs. Like definitely find something with a crochet knitted seam. And yeah, I think I've covered them, like the unraveling part. Okay, so next is I'm just gonna walk you through the hand dyeing process and how it went. So this one, like I dyed them in two different colors, and it was sort of like the feeling was sort of like making a science experiment because knitting is another skill. Hand dyeing or dyeing yarns is an entirely different one. Like it was a very new and a very exciting experiment for me. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna also walk you through that. So for the materials, you'll need, of course, like your yarn, undyed yarn, and then a spoon or like measuring cups, anything that you will use like to measure liquid, and your dye. I use Rit Dye for this one in the color royal purple and sandstone. And then you're gonna need a pot, a big one. Like you can get this like soup pots, I think. I got mine online. So yeah, like you need a pot solely for dyeing. Like I don't think that you can use it for food anymore once you already use that pot for dyeing. So yeah, just a thing to remember. And then another is oh yeah, just a couple of papers and stuff, and gloves if you have, but I really didn't use any gloves, even though I think you should because the dye is also a toxic chemical. So for the first part, with the unraveled yarn, I got, I think, about 450 grams of it. So it was quite a lot of yarn. And like I said earlier, I turned them into hanks first for dyeing. And what you have to do actually, when you're winding it into a hank, is that you have to tie it in like 4 or 2 sections on different ends so that it will not also get tangled when you dye your yarn. And then with the dyeing part, so I wasn't actually able to record the first time that I tried dyeing the yarn, but this is what I ended up with. So this is the using the Sandstone by Rit Dye. I actually just use very, very minimal dye. I think it was just like, I don't know, like 10 ml or something for like 4 liters of water for this one. So yes, you can see it's kind of like a caramel color and I really like it. And this was the before. So yeah, you can see like the difference. Like you wouldn't think that this came from an old sweater. So yeah, this actually turned nice. I was like so happy when I saw how the yarn turned out. So yeah, like with the Rit dye, it's actually a synthetic dye because this one, the sweater's yarn initially is 60% cotton and 40% acrylic. And the thing with dyes is that acrylic doesn't really absorb that much dye or color. Like I saw some people dyeing wool, merino, and stuff like that with natural dyes like avocado, onions, but it wouldn't just. I thought also of that doing that first with dyeing with onion skins, but it wouldn't. I saw that it wouldn't work because the yarn has a synthetic component with it, which is acrylic. So it wouldn't absorb the dye. So I just opted for a synthetic dye and it still turned out well. But in the future, I actually would want to try dyeing with natural dyes like avocados and onions. And there's also this method called solar dyeing where you put like the yarns in a jar and then you put it out in the sun and you can put like different like plants in it to actually dye the yarn. So yeah, that is a whole another method. But yeah, that's it for the sandstone. And I also tried it with making a lighter, more cream color compared to the earlier one. So I ended up with this like cream colored yarn. It's also using this sandstone. And just so you can see the difference, this is how they look like. They're in different shades, but I just used the same dye. With the, I think I also used the same amount of water for the both of them. And yeah, there's actually a lot of shades that you can do with just one bottle of dye. And I like this. I like this more because I was gonna pair it with project, which is I got this pattern by a spectacle strick, which is the moods slip over. So yeah, I got it. I have it with me right now actually. So this one, these are all from the old sweater yarn, and I'm currently doing the color chart, the intarsia one for this, and I'm excited with how this turns out. So the cream looks like this in cake format, and it's really so beautiful. It reminds me of butter almost. And I am pairing it with this lilac sort of color, lilac lavender. So I dyed this using the Rit Dye Royal Purple, and this one what I did was I used about 10 to uh, 10 to 11 tablespoons of dye for about 4 to 5 liters of water, and then I cooked it for about 20 minutes. So I dyed three hanks in one pot. So yeah, it turned out a very nice lilac color, just the way that I wanted it to be. And yeah, just a couple of tips, I guess, when hand dyeing your yarn. So the first one is the dye. Like when you put it in the water, it might look kind of like diluted, like with particular colors, like with the sandstone. Like I was kind of scared at first when I saw like the dye in the water, which looked kind of like diluted, and I was scared that the yarn wouldn't soak in the color, but it gets darker the more that you cook it. So I think this one I just cook it for like about 15 minutes, and it turned out like this. It was actually like I didn't really note the measurements of the ratio of the dye in the water for this one. And yeah, like overall, I think also another thing that you have to watch out is to actually just like check the yarn from time to time, because the longer that you cook it, darker that it gets. So with this one, this actually, like when this was in the pot, this is actually really dark. Like you have to remember that fabric or dye no fabric and yarns are darker when wet. So you have to kind of like think ahead and not like be so scared when it gets like really dark when it's cooking in the pot, because most likely when you hang and dry it and it dries, it will be about like 3 to 4 shades lighter than when it's wet. So yeah, like overall this was just like a really fun process, and I still have a lot of dye left. I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna buy some undyed yarns, and I wanted to try it with other fibers like wool and merino, but like with the weather here, cotton is just like the most logical fabric, like fiber to use. So yeah, like I'm so happy with how this turned out, especially like look, you can you imagine that like this was from an old sweater, like from this one. And yeah, like oh, as you can see, like this had kinks before. It literally looked like noodles when it was in the pot. Like it looked like ramen when I was cooking it. So yeah, and here like it almost looks like new. The kinks are already out. They've been straightened out because also of the heat, I think, from cooking it. So yeah, like at first I was actually kind of scared with this one, like if the kinks will get out, because from what I heard, like fibers with synthetic component in it have a bit of like trouble getting they have a bit of trouble getting the kinks out, but yeah, just turn out well. Oh, another note before putting the yarns in the pot is that you have to pre-wash it. Like you could just wash it with mild detergent. Like me, I just wash it with mild detergent and just like soak the yarn for about like 15 to 20 minutes, just like to loosen up the fibers. So yeah, that's just another thing to remember. And then yeah, after you cooked it and dyed it, the next thing that you would want to do is to, of course, dry it. Like with me, what I did is I just put them in like on hangers so that they will just like fall effortlessly and they wouldn't get tangled up. So yeah, and then I just like dried them out in the sun, and I did this thing where I kind of like rotated them from after a couple of hours. So yeah, because what happens is like when it dries, the water kind of like goes down at the bottom. So what you have to do is like, what you can do is like you can like rotate it so that the bottom part is the one that dries out. So yeah, that's, I think that's pretty much it for the dyeing part. After that, after the yarn already dries, I put them in my Swifter with my umbrella thingy. I still don't know how to call it properly, but yeah, I put them in the umbrella Swift, and I like turn them into a cake, and then I turn them again into a hank. Um, yeah, that was a long process. It was actually unnecessary. Like you can just actually turn them into cakes directly, but for me, like aesthetically, I like how the hanks look like, because like they're just like so beautiful, and this is also a better way of storing yarn that you're not actually immediately gonna use. So you can like turn them into hanks like this for better storage. So yeah, I think that's it for all the unraveling and dyeing the yarn. And yeah, I can't wait to finish this project. Like as you can see, the yarn is, it's really good. Like it's just, aside from the a bit of peeling part, it's actually good as new. And oh, the colors also came out even. Like, oh, this one, I'm knitting this in 4 millimeter needles, and yeah, it was just a segue. Like I'm knitting this in 4 millimeter needles, and I'm not used to small needles, so I was having a bit of a hard time at first, like with the tension and stuff. So as you can see, there's like a little bits of like bubbles in there. I don't know how to fix that, but anyway, like this is the cream one. As you can see, the color combination is just it's perfect, like just how I like the colors to be. And yeah, that's it, I think, for this video. um I don't know, did I miss out on anything? I'm really so sorry. This video is just like all over the place. I just like thought of filming this because I don't have work today. And yeah, did I forget something? Yeah, like if, oh, another thing is like with the dyeing, with hand dyeing, like I tried solids at first, but in the future I really wanted to try those variegated ones, the ones that have like different speckles and like color variation in a hank. So I want to try that. Like I saw some people doing hand painting yarns, but I actually I want to try it in another fiber like wool and not with cotton, because with plant fibers I read that they really don't absorb that much color. Like the colors turn out a bit duller compared to dyeing something like wool and merino. And uh yeah, like those are just like a bit some future plans. But overall it was a really long process, from unraveling the sweater and then caking it, turning it into a cake, and then turning it into a hank, and then washing it, and then cooking it, and then dyeing it, and then turning it into a skein again. Why do I keep saying skein? It's a hank. Turning it into a hank again, and then turning it into a cake. So yeah, it was just like a bit of back and forth. It was a long process, but very fun one. Like I definitely learned a lot, and I would definitely dye some more yarns. This one, I don't know if like I would also dye this a lilac color. I actually left. I have hanks, two hanks left, and I don't know what to do with this. Maybe I'm just gonna make a summer top out of this or something. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for this video. It was kind of all over the place. I'm so sorry, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. And like I I think I'm gonna also, like, I wanted to put out more stuff in this channel, but yeah, I think like next week or sometime in August, I'm gonna show you also a couple of like whips and finished objects that I've done. But that's for another video, and I think that's it for today's video. I hope you learned something, and yeah, I'm gonna see you in the next one.